Hello, everyone. Welcome to Flower Power Live. Today we have reached the cross quarter of Lammas, which is this halfway point between the summer solstice and the fall equinox. And this is one of the first of the three celebrations within the Celtic tradition that's celebrating sort of the beginning of the big harvest season. And we know it's harvest season because our vegetable gardens and our flower gardens are really starting to produce, as well as we can go to the farmer's market and see the stalls are all filled up with all kinds of goodies. And so today's show, we're going to celebrate not just that bounty of the harvest, but the whole reason why this is even possible. And that is thanks to the pollinators. I'm Allison from the Well Cultivated Life, and sometimes I'll introduce myself as an herbalist, educator, and ecologist. And today we're going to get our ecology on. So we're going to be talking about the importance of insects that pollinate all the plants or most of the plants on Earth, basically. And so as we're coming into summer, we start to see everything starting to change. The plants are moving through their life cycle from, foliar growth. They're putting on their flowers, and now a lot of plants are already starting to set seed for the fall, and they're dying back, and the next set of plants comes through, and this constant sort of cycling of plants is so important because it keeps food available throughout the season for pollinating types of insects. And so today's plant is officially since we're on the wheel of the year, the card that I drew in December for this August 1st or 2nd, sometimes it's celebrated, is Bee Balm. And Bee Balm is without a doubt one of the best pollinator plants that insects absolutely love. And last year, I did a show on bee balm. And so I decided that I would kind of expand on that a little bit. Instead of specifically talking about bee balm, I'm going to talk about the importance of bee balm and other plants for providing food for pollinators. So I want to share with you something that is going to show you just how important it is. There's nothing like watching the insects on a patch of bee balm to confirm the importance of having pollinator plants in your garden. Pink moth right there. And that's from my own garden. And the bee balm is even somewhat past its prime. You can see all these hanging behind me. That is bee balm that is drying right now. And so what is a pollinator anyway? What does that mean? We have kids, we hear that, oh, my school's putting in a pollinator garden. Well, what does that mean? Well, pollinators are any type of insect, or it can be other animals that pollinate plants. And so what we usually think of is well, the honeybee is the number one pollinator, but there are like 20,000 different types of bees besides honeybees, and about 3,500 of those live in North America. And most of these types of bees they're what's called a solitary bee, like a bumblebee. They don't live in a big hive. They live just singly. The female builds her own nest and so on. And bees are what we usually think of because they are very good pollinators. They have different types of structures, like they have legs that have little protrusions on them that are especially good at picking up pollen and spreading it back and forth across the flowers. But there are many other types of insects that also pollinate flowers, and that includes wasps, butterflies, moths, beetles, and these other types of little hovering flies and buzzy little bees. And that's why I wanted to show you that video, because when you go out to a patch of something and you think you're just going to see some bees, you'll realize, wow, there's a lot of different insects out here, and they all have their particular preference. Now, this is incredibly important because 85% of all the world's plants that actually flower, so this excludes things like, well, mushrooms aren't really a plant, but mosses, or there are some types of plants that do not put on a flower. 85% of those depend on insects to pollinate their flowers. And some are wind pollinated, like a lot of trees and grasses, but the majority of plants do need insects. And this includes hundreds of the different food crops that we eat. So we are depending on pollinators to help create our food crops. Now, let's get real here. Pollination is straight up plant sex, okay? No fertilization, no baby, no pollination, no seed. If the ovary of the flower does not receive pollen, it's not going to develop a seed. And seeds are the food that we get from a plant. So we get no tomatoes, we get no cucumbers, we get no sunflower seeds if it's not been pollinated. Now, according to the Xerces Society, who is like a conservation society, and they run a conservation program. They One interesting thing that I read off their site was that not only do we depend on plants for food, but it turns out that pollinators are keystone species in most terrestrial ecosystems. Fruits and seeds derived from insect pollination are a major part of the diet of approximately 25% of all birds and of mammals, ranging from redback voles to grizzly bears. Unfortunately, in many places, the essential service of pollination is at risk from habitat loss, pesticide use, and introduced diseases. So, birds and mammals also need insects to pollinate the wild plants that they are going to be using for their own food as well. Now, what can we do to help? We can make sure that our own yards are pollinator friendly. Okay. So, whether you have a deck or an acre, you can still do something. And the first thing you can do is number one, stop the chemicals. Okay. If you're in the habit of spraying or fertilizing your lawn, for example, or just pulling out the spray every time you see a bug, you need to think twice because obviously pesticides are going to be damaging to any kinds of beneficial insects. But not only that, even when you are fertilizing your lawn and you're putting on that granular fertilizer, when water hits that, if it rains or the dew, what happens is that gets very concentrated and it's like a little chemical soup. So think of a bee coming down to land on a clover or some kind of other flower that might be in your grass. They're going to end up getting like a toxic load of chemicals. So that's all I'm going to say. Stop spraying the chemicals. Let the dandelions grow, whether your neighbors like it or not. Okay. The next thing you can do is plant more native species into your yard. The insects that live here are adapted to certain species of plants. And so if you are bringing in native species, I know in most states there are I think it's usually the month of June is like National Pollinator Month. So a lot of local garden centers will have specials on specific plants native to the region that are good for pollinators. And then you can plant other bee and pollinator friendly plants in your garden just to create a garden that provides nectar throughout the growing season. So we want the bees to come and pollinate our tomato plants, but tomatoes don't produce a whole lot of nectar. So the plants, what we need to be doing is offering another good source of food close by so that the pollinators will, come on to my borage, which is actually my plant for next week. We'll talk more about that. And then they're going to hop on over to the tomato plant because it's close by. So that is the strategy that you want for planting nectar rich plants or flowers into your garden. So I just wanted to share a few of these with you. So of course we have Bee Balm, and not only is Bee Balm lovely for all the bumblebees and all the other types of insects that you saw in the video, but the hummingbirds also love it. Now, I do not think a hummingbird is much of a pollinator because, as you can see, it's not touching the flower and necessarily grabbing a lot of pollen, but perhaps it is a little bit on its bill as it takes a sip. So, bee balm is a very good pollinator. This purple bee balm is the native bee balm for North America, and then the red bee balm is another species. I think it's more European, but either one will do the trick. And then throughout the season, in the springtime, dandelions are super early bloomers. And so they're a source of nectar for pollinators early in the year. And then up here in the top left is chives. And chives, of course, are delicious. And their flower buds, their little flowering tops, are edible. They're in the onion and garlic family, but bees absolutely love them, and they're an early bloomer. And then down below, you have different types of clover, which are also very, clover honey. It's what we think of when we think of good plant for bees. Now, in the early summer, many of the plants in the mint family, these aromatic herbs such as lavender and rosemary on the left and right there, or anything else in the mint family, sage, hyssop, bee balm is actually in the mint family as well. And then here in the center is uh, comfrey, which is one of my favorite plants and just has these beautiful bell-shaped blooms that the bees all love. In late summer, like starting right around now, yes, it's late summer. We're going into the colder season soon. You have echinacea. You have the different types of mints again. There's the basil flowers. This is fennel flower here on the bottom, and the different types of milkweeds here with the butterfly, and then of course sunflower. That is also a great plant for pollinators because there's so many flowers in a sunflower. And then in the fall is a really important time to make sure you are planting for the fall as well. One of the big wild plants at that time is goldenrod, and this is a very good. It's not wind pollinated like some people think, and it is a very good plant to help keep insects going into the fall, as well as aster over here on the right. And then on the top left is a zinnia. And so this is an annual where I live. In more southern parts, you might be able to grow it year round, but planting certain annuals that bloom late into the fall, such as cosmos, zinnias, and dahlias, will provide nectar for these pollinators late into the fall. Let's see here. I think that was all I had. Yes, we don't have any winter blooming plants on here, although some people may, in fact, live in an area where you can actually have some plants blooming in the fall or in the winter. So those are some ideas. If you don't have any kinds of plants like that out in your garden, you might want to consider it for next year. It is never too early to plant or to plan next year's garden, and fall is actually an excellent time to plant, as well as the fact that garden centers don't want to carry all their plants over the winter. So a lot of times they have them on sale. It's a good time, and always a good time to buy plants as well. So even though we're not talking about a specific plant today, I thought that what I would do is I would go ahead and share the flower essence and a card for Bee Balm. So because I used the Herb Crafters Tarot in my other show from last July, which I'll put the link for that down below if you really would like to know a little bit more about Bee Balm, then today I'm using the card from the Soulflower Essence, the Soulflower Oracle deck. And the word for today is vibrance. And the words on the card say, add some spark to your life, let go of inhibitions, cut loose, and be passionate. Do what makes your soul sing. And I just love that. And this is Lisa Estabrook, Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle deck. She's up in Maine, and she has these beautiful, I think they might be watercolor paintings that she's done for each of these cards. So Um, I didn't do the flower essence. Well, we'll do. Let me do the flower essence next. And the flower essence is actually joyfulness. Is our sort of word for the day um for the flower essence. And according to Lycanwood Herbals, this is the my mentor that I trained with on my flower essence training. She says that joyfulness, Bee Balm assists in finding a way to express joyfulness. This essence helps people let go of inhibition and helps them to have fun. It's an essential for workaholics, those who are over serious but secretly yearn to break free, dance, and sing and play. And it promotes a sense of humor. And then, according to Herbal Energetics, Bee Balm helps one to feel, experience, and express joyfulness, ignite your will and motivation to carry out your dreams and goals, even without the support of others. And this is such an important message that I'll talk about in a little bit. It helps you let go of inhibitions and encourage yourself for joyful expression. So back to our card here. Um, Joyfulness and vibrance, both of these are similar types of properties, right? And um, hold on, I lost my page. Where did you go? There it is. So some of the other things on the card that she says is that to Bee Balm encourages you to let go of your inhibitions, cut loose and be passionate. Sing your song at the top of your lungs without judgment. Every day is a gift worth celebrating. Bee Balm reminds you to show up and embrace the potential of your own life with no excuses. So, what is the potential of your life? Let's look at our pollinator friends. If there was ever a greater purpose than pollinating ensuring that the world's plants are able to complete their life cycles, there's not many things more important than that. And in fact, although we know that these insects are just kind of doing their job, we cannot help, if you saw the video, we cannot help but think, wow, they really look like they're so intent on what they're doing, and they have such a passion and purpose and enthusiasm. And you cannot dissuade them from this task. If you do, you might risk actually getting stung, right? This is how important this is to them. So, what would it take for us, for you to find your purpose and your soul's purpose and determination, and to remove the doubt as to whether or not this is the right thing that you should be doing? The card is telling us to embrace our life and really live it, to show up. And what happens is, so often when we're unhappy in life, it's because we are letting other people tell us what is important for us, what we need to, or what we should be doing according to these like rules of society. But we each have a stronger reason to live our lives that we need to tap into. And so the question is, what are you attracted to? These, just like these flowers are attracting these pollinators with just such determination, and they're so intent on what they're doing. What are you attracted to? And are you allowing yourself to be attracted to that flower that is a passionate purpose for you? Lisa Estabrook, the woman who created those cards, tells a story about how she spent many years not doing what she was supposed to do. She wanted to be an artist, and she ended up being a graphic designer for a long time. And it wasn't until she finally just said, no, I need to follow what I'm attracted to. I need to do what my passion and purpose is. And so when you do that, that will create joy, and you'll be bringing that out into the world. You'll be pollinating the world with your joy because you're living the life you're supposed to live. Now, do not make this complicated. Don't let this get in the way of this. Go out, live with joy, and find your purpose. All right. That's our message from Bee Balm and the pollinators tonight. So make sure you go down, get yourself some pollinator plants, get them planted in your garden so that you can help to support a healthy ecosystem where you live. Take care, everyone. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like. And if you're watching this the week that it actually happened, I have a new retreat coming up next week. It's going to be starting August 10th. It's almost ready for signups. And so stay tuned. I will let you know as soon as it's ready to, as soon as the registration is open for that. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.